Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me Kagam. Today we are doing a new segment on this channel, and if it's successful I'll do many of these. It's called Cocktails and Bait. This is Aperol. I just poured myself some. I just realized that we had this. I was like, oh, I haven't had Aperol in some time. So I'm going to be sipping on this throughout the video, and we're going to talk about some big H honey, hot topics. I really hope that you like this format. You'll tell me what you think of the format of this video. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. But the inspiration was because today, after I finish editing this video, I have to spend a few hours doing our visa application for the Schengen visa. So if you don't know, I am obviously from Tanzania and I'm a citizen of Tanzania, which means I cannot just jump on a plane and go to Europe. I have to apply for what's called the Schengen visa. France is in the Schengen zone. I think there are 22 countries in the Schengen zone. Germany's in it, France is in it, Italy's in it, Spain is in it. And what that means is that European citizens of the EU who are part of Schengen member states can have visa-free travel and border-free travel. So a French person can go to Spain today and just show their ID card, and a Spanish person can go to Milan today and just show their ID card. So what they did then for people like me is they created this thing called the Schengen visa. So whenever I tell you, oh, I have to apply for a visa to go to Europe, generally speaking, I'm talking about the Schengen visa. There are like some differences to this. If you want to go to the UK and you have my passport, you have to get a UK visa. And then you can't enter the Republic of Ireland with a UK visa. You have to then get another visa for the Republic of Ireland, for example, because even though the Republic of Ireland is part of the EU, it is not part of Schengen. Okay, so I'm going to be spending tonight doing Europe visa applications, so make sure that you leave me really cool comments. I'll be really excited to see like super detailed comments from you guys. So yeah, without further ado, let's start this new segment called Cocktails and Bait. That is when we do a dedicated Big H video. I've got a bunch of bait list videos coming for Vlogmas. I'm saving them for Vlogmas, so I have lots of great content to share with you. So without further ado, let's get started. We're just going to talk about hot topics. We're going to talk about hot topics and things that you guys tell me and questions that I get, because I get a lot of similar questions. So I thought it could be fun to also answer some questions that I constantly get for everyone. All right. So actually, yeah, this is a question I got from one of you asking me like, you know, why do people say that scoring in Paris is about luck? Okay, let's talk about it. So when it pertains to this, whenever people say that it's about luck, I think what people misunderstand is a fundamental misunderstanding of what is going on in Paris today. We're not talking about when the appointment system, I think, was first launched, which I believe was 2017, something like that. What is going on in Paris today is very, very different to the way it was in 2017, which I definitely think was more luck-based. There wasn't that much competition. Tens of thousands of people are applying for the Big H lottery every single day in Paris in 2022. You cannot compare that to shopping in Paris in 2018, where there were less people. So I think what happens is like people think about the luck thing, okay, and then people say, well, that person got lucky and it's all about luck because it's just about, you know, being at the right place at the right time and it's about the essay liking you. I think that is a fundamental just misunderstanding of the shenanigans that are going on in Paris right now. I don't really believe in luck when it pertains to Big H. I think you make your own luck. And I think leopards, honey, remember what I told you? Are you a leopard or are you a lamb? Because a leopard is not going to sit and wait for the universe to happen to them and wait to be lucky. A leopard, honey, is going to put her wig on and is going to go there and create her own luck. A lamb is just, you know, waiting on a wing and a prayer to be lucky. Okay, I don't know about that. I'm not really a supporter of that. Don't get me wrong, there are some people who do get lucky and who are Pegasus unicorns. A Pegasus unicorn is someone who gets a Birkin, Kelly or Constance without any profile, any purchase history. There's no question that those people exist. Yes, there are people every day who are Pegasus unicorns, but I actually think that's part of the business strategy, where they basically have someone who they will make that person a unicorn, so that person goes to spread the word like, oh my god guys, you know, you don't need to show loyalty, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do that. But actually at the end of the day, everyone, and when I mean everyone, I mean everyone, is showing loyalty at the Parisian stores. Now, let's talk about what kind of loyalty you need to show, because I feel like in Paris, I don't necessarily think it's like you have to show a phenomenal sum of loyalty. I don't know whether it's like a ton of loyalty like you would show in your home store. And another question that I get from a lot of you is, do you think it's worth going to Paris? Why shouldn't I take the loyalty that I'm going to show in Paris? Shouldn't I take that and just spend it at home? You know, I think the thing with playing the Paris rodeo is that everyone has a different ability to play the Paris game, as it were. Some of you can absolutely afford to play at home and play in Paris and play in other European cities. There are many people who can shop at home, in Paris, in a lot of other European cities, in a lot of other cities in Asia, and it's not a thing. Some of you have told me, hey, you know, I can't do that. You know, I can't shop in two places. I have to choose one. I think it's just about your ability to just figure out like what works for you. I'm not a fan of necessarily telling people like, take that money and spend it at home, because I don't know your I don't know your capability basically of showing a ton of loyalty. There's some of you who can show a ton of loyalty and you can shop in Paris and you can shop at home. I think if you can do both, because I feel like by doing both, you end up just creating more opportunities for yourself if you can do both. But everyone is different, and I don't want to make any assumptions about people's financial prowess, as it were. You might be someone who can play in Paris and play at home, and we shouldn't make assumptions or judgments, because everyone has a different ability basically to compete, if that makes sense. Okay? I feel like when it pertains to luck versus loyalty, I will always say go and show loyalty. If you become lucky, that's fantastic, but at the end of the day, most people are not lucky. Most people are going there to show loyalty. Another thing I wanted to talk about is a lot of you are sending me stories about people's like success stories where it is so blatantly obvious that someone has omitted information. So for example, I remember I was reading this story in a Facebook group, and someone had said that she had scored a BKC, okay? And she said that she scored a BKC in Paris and she never had a profile there. But then when she was explaining the story of her BKC score, she actually bought a bunch of items, like obviously to show loyalty, and then she was offered the BKC. So I'm just kind of like, well, why are you saying that you didn't have a profile when you did obviously create a profile while you were there, even if you had never shopped, in Paris before or had been successful before? While you're there, you're creating a profile. There's a lot of omissions that are going on at the moment in social media stories. So if you are heading to Paris right now and you're getting ready to go to Paris, listen to the way people tell you a story. A lot of the times, people omit information because they want to make it seem like they're more special. I've told you guys this many times, and I will say it again. To me, no one is better than someone else just because they didn't show as much loyalty as someone else. I feel like sometimes in the Big H community, there's this obsession with making it seem like, oh, I didn't really buy anything, or I didn't really like show any loyalty to Big H, and I got this really great offer. But in literally the majority of the Big H Paris stories, many people are omitting information that is very important and very material, and that doesn't tell the full story. If I tell you this, I say, hey, guys, I went to Paris at the end of the year. I got a mini Kelly in Epsom or Chèvre, and I didn't really buy anything, okay? Are you going to be more interested to hear that, or are you going to be more interested to hear, hey guys, I got a mini Kelly, I showed loyalty in January because I had porcelain and beauty scores under my belt, and then this time around I went back and I showed more loyalty with really beautiful diamond fine jewelry and a diamond watch and croc shoes. I'm just giving an example. Which one sounds more amazing for clicks and drama? The person who says they didn't really do anything or show any loyalty and got the mini Kelly in Epsom or whatever, or the person who did show loyalty? with diamonds and things that sparkle and exotic shoes, and then they got it. Which one sounds more interesting? I personally want to hear about the people who are being transparent. Many people are omitting information on social media when it pertains to shopping at Big H. So if you are heading to Paris right now, you need to be aware that many people are omitting information. Another thing which I think is part of the sort of omission culture, there's this weird like omission culture with Big H, and that is influencers. So now let's talk about influencers, and what I'm about to say is very controversial, so hear me out. I have to keep it Gucci, honey, okay? Influencers are treated differently because they are famous influencers and they have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and they are not going to go through the same experience that you're going to go through. So you cannot look at a famous influencer and say, oh, well, I follow this really famous influencer and that person, you know, gets everything offered in Paris and they literally don't even show any loyalty. They barely show any loyalty. Maybe they buy silks and shoes and they get really great offers. That person is getting those offers, honey, because they are famous. At this point, influencers are celebrities. You don't have to like it, boo-boo. You don't have to like it, boo-boo. But at the end of the day, we all know what time it is. Are you a famous influencer? Yes or no? I'm not a famous influencer. I don't have 100K followers on TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram. By the way, please go support my Instagram, it's linked below. My TikTok, baby, it's linked below. And go join my Facebook group, it's linked below. But I do not have hundreds of thousands of followers on all of my social platforms. Influencers do have influencer privilege. This is so good, by the way. Influencers do have influencer privilege, and at the end of the day, if you are not an influencer but you follow influencers who are successful in Paris, you're going to get frustrated with shopping in Paris because you're going to be like, well, how come they were treated that way and how come I can't get an offer? You're not a famous influencer with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. You are not going to be treated the same way. In the cases of like really famous influencers, and like I said, you know, for me, honey, I don't have any beef with anyone. I watch so many videos and I enjoy so many people's content. You don't name drop anyone because it's not me having a go. It's just me keeping it Gucci, honey, okay, and being honest and being transparent. In the case of really, really, really famous influencers who get BKC offers easily, in some cases, the SA probably knows who that person is when they walk in the store. They're probably like, oh, that person's a famous influencer on Instagram. I like that person. I'm going to go out of my way and offer that person a mini Kelly or a Kelly pochette or the Kelly 25 easily because I like that person. They probably follow them on a burner account on Instagram. They probably follow them and like them and they want to, you know, offer them something, and not just in Paris, like even in influencers' home stores. Like some of you have told me like, well, how come, you know, there's an influencer in my home city and my home city is really competitive and this person's got a very coveted, desirable mini Kelly or Birkin or Kelly 25 and they haven't shown any loyalty. They got it because they're famous. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to be honest. It's so obvious to me. I mean, I don't know how people can't accept this. You just have to accept that's just the way the game is played. Some people get really upset about this. They think it's unfair that Big H is prioritizing influencers. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm not mad at the player, honey. You have to hate the game. You don't hate the other leopards who are using things to their advantage. Life is not fair. No one needs to go and buy these bags. They're not a necessity in life. It's not really that serious. It is what it is. I'm just saying, let's just acknowledge influencer privilege. Influencer privilege is very real, especially in the Paris scene. Influencer privilege is real, and people get offers easier because they're famous influencers. You cannot compare yourself to someone who is a famous influencer, I beg your pardon, unless you are a famous influencer, in which case, if you're watching this and you're a famous influencer and you haven't got an offer yet, you need to go pull rank, baby, okay? You need to go to the store and be like, guess what? I got 100K on Instagram, I got 100K on YouTube, I got 100K on TikTok. Where's my MK2, honey? Bring her down here right now, okay? Influencer privilege is very real. The people who don't acknowledge influencer privilege are doing it to seem humble, and to me it just seems more arrogant just acknowledge the fact that if you're a famous influencer, it is easy. It is easier for them. I am not a famous influencer. Okay, I am not an influencer. I am not famous. I do not have a massive following. So I feel like my experience in Paris is going to be very similar for how many of you will experience Paris. That's kind of how I see it. Okay. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is big spender privilege in Paris and VIP privilege in Paris. These are relatively new phenomenons. I've been noticing recently there are a lot of big spenders on social media who minimize what they spend at Big H, or what they like the amount of loyalty that they show at their home store, and then they get a connection at the Parisian stores from their home store because they're showing so much loyalty, and then they'll be like, oh, but it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter having a profile, it doesn't matter because I didn't have a profile here and I got this great offer. You got that offer, honey, because you are a baller in your home store. Again, I think that it is a little bit easier for someone who's balling in their home store. If you're watching this and you're a local baller in your home store, in your home city, and you want to play the Paris game, I think if you have a huge like profile at home, and by huge I mean like you're spending, let's say, 6 figures a year in USD, euros, pounds sterling, I don't think it's a bad idea to use that as leverage, maybe to get special treatment in Paris. It's not unheard of. I have heard that this has happened. I don't know how common it is, because I personally probably wouldn't do that, only if I was like a baller in my local store. Let's just imagine Africa had a Big H store. I probably wouldn't want to like offend the local SA and maybe offend them by like taking my spend and spending it in Paris when I could be showing loyalty at home. But it's not unheard of. I have heard that it's happened where people who are ballers in their home stores ask for introductions in Paris, in which case you do have a kind of big spender / VIP privilege. In the Big H community, there's this obsession with saying, oh, I don't really I don't really like buy anything, I don't really spend that much. But then when you look at someone's particularly on social media, when you look at the types of things that they're buying, they are big spenders. Maybe they're not like a 6-figure VIP, but yeah, they probably are a big spender and they are treated very well. That definitely is a thing. And like I said, I really feel like it needs to be like 6 figures or in that kind of realm. But I have heard of this happening. And when this happens, again, big spenders need to acknowledge that. Don't be a big spender who gets an introduction to Paris and then you're telling other people, oh, it doesn't matter having a profile, it's all about luck, when you yourself have 6 figures worth of spend behind you at home, which has therefore allowed you to make connections in Paris. There is a lot of privilege that surrounds the shopping, the Paris rodeo and shopping in Paris. And don't get me wrong, I know you're going to be like, ooh, let me get my violin out. Let me feel sorry for people who are going to be spending, all of this money and fantastic sums of money in Paris. Let me go feel sorry for them. I get that, okay? I'm not saying that you should feel sorry for people, okay? But I do think that big spender privilege is a thing. And I think that it's just super important for us to acknowledge that, because if you're a big spender at your home store and you get an introduction, you cannot compare your experience to someone who has never played the Paris rodeo and doesn't have a profile in Paris and doesn't have a big profile at their home store. They're two completely different experiences, and it's just super important to acknowledge that as well. I was getting a lot of questions recently about Lyon, so I wanted to talk about Lyon for a second. In some of my older videos, I was telling you guys about Lyon, and I was saying how Lyon is a really interesting place, I think, to go and try. Obviously, I haven't been there yet. I would like to see if I can go there. I don't know if I'm going to have time this time around, because I just don't know. It's all dependent on how many days I get within the visa, as I was telling you guys. So we'll just see. But Lyon, I think, is like a 3-hour train ride from Paris. You can go in the morning, really early in the morning. You can be there really early in the morning as well, and then you can be back in Paris for the evening. So you can just make it like a day trip. I feel like Lyon is probably worth a look if you're willing to go 1.5 to 1. I don't know the exact number for that location, but from what I've been hearing, like they will expect you to show loyalty. So it's probably just worth going there if you can, but I don't think it's worth it if you're not going to go there and go to a factor of 1.5. I really feel like it needs to be kind of a 1.5 kind of thing for it to be worth your time. Like I said, you know, a few years ago, you know, we'd hear on social media about Lyon and how, oh, you know, it's about connecting with the person and all of this. I mean, whenever people say that, I feel like it's just a misunderstanding about what is going on right now. Big H has created this game. We all know the game exists. Let's all just stop acting like it doesn't exist. Yes, there are unicorn experiences for some people. Some people do get unicorn experiences, but most people don't. Based on the efforts that I have to put to get my Schengen visa, I'm not going to France, honey, to fail or to flop, boo-boo, okay? So if I was going to Lyon, I'm going there to compete like a leopard. Okay, remember what I told you, okay? African leopards are the only other predator that would dare to eat or to maim a lion's cubs. No other animal on the African continent would even dare to approach a lion, honey. But leopards would be like, let me stop you right there, girl. Okay, I don't care. It's too much effort and work for me to be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to Lyon and I'm just gonna go on a whim that the person's gonna like me and I'm gonna make them like me. What makes you and your personality so much more special than other incredible human beings who are also going there trying to get the Big HSA to like them? It's better to just go and be competitive. If you're going to go to Lyon, let me know how you get on. But from what I have heard, it's definitely a factor of like 1.5 to 1. That's what I've heard, you know, in order to get those like really great offers. Other places which we've talked about before where people have reported being successful is Cannes, Aix-en-Provence, Monaco. Now Monaco is really interesting because Monaco apparently is quite transparent and very direct. I heard about someone who shared a story in a Facebook group that she bought a piece of diamond fine jewelry and she was offered a really nice exotic BKC quote bag. So I think it's probably worth having a look as well at Monaco. There are places where I feel like it's probably not worth it unless you can go to a factor of like 5 to 1. It's probably Amsterdam, because I've been told directly that Amsterdam for tourists, it's literally not going to happen unless it's like 5 to 1. Copenhagen, I have never heard of anyone who is not Danish, who does not live in Denmark, being offered anything in Copenhagen. So Copenhagen, I probably wouldn't even try. There's only one Big H boutique in all of Denmark, and it's the boutique in Copenhagen. So that's like one boutique serving the entire country of Denmark. That's incredibly competitive, lots of wealthy people there. You're not going to go there and buy a pair of shoes and stand out. It's not going to happen, okay? And I think it's just better for us to keep it Gucci, honey, and to be transparent and to share things so that you don't go there and waste your time. If you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to go there and buy like, you know, a twilly and buy a pair of shoes and I'm going to, you know, chat up the SA and get them to like me and we're going to connect because I'm so nice and everyone loves me and I'm so special. Girl, you're going to get to the Copenhagen store, boo-boo, and they're going to be like, girl, bye. Okay. Do you speak Danish? Yes or no? No. Okay, you're not Danish. You don't speak Danish. You don't live here. Bye, girl. Okay, it's been real. Bye. Now, I don't want that to happen to you. I don't want you to feel embarrassed. So I think it's better for us to just share that information. However, Italy is a little bit different. So let's talk about Italy now. While I drink Aperol, which is from Italy. Italy, I feel like, is a little bit different because Italy has been said many times that they're also very direct. If you walk in and you haven't shown loyalty, they'll be like, no, it's only for Italians. But if you show some loyalty and start building that, you know, loyalty train, honey, you jump on the loyalty train and you start picking out pieces in diamond fine jewelry and watches and prêt-à-porter, you might find that things change. There is one boutique in Italy where people have reported being successful, which is Capri, and that's a seasonal store. I think it's closed at the moment, but obviously it's seasonal, so next spring, summer, it will open again. Capri, I've heard really good things about Capri. I've heard good things about Rome and Italy. Apparently Rome is very stocked as well, but you know, they will want you to show significant sums of loyalty. So if you can go there and blow a bag, it's probably worth giving it a crack and giving it a go if you can do it. So yeah, let me know what you think about that as well. I want to talk about something which I think is a little bit different, but I think it's really important, and it's called respect. I'm going to call this segment respect, okay? In this one group, there was someone who was saying she didn't know whether it was like worth taking her really expensive designer handbags to Europe because she was worried that she was going to be mugged. Bear in mind, she's talking about European luxury brands. She's talking about Louis Vuitton. She's talking about Big C, Big H, Gucci. These are European brands. They are from Europe. Let's have respect for people's cultures, and let's have respect for people when we go shopping in their countries. I think that's a very ignorant way of thinking, and I'm going to explain why. You can't tell me that you're from like another country, but you don't want to take your expensive European luxury brands to the countries where they're from in Europe. I mean, do you think that people in Europe don't have those things? Of course they do. You know, it's like this. It's like these stereotypes that we hear about people who live in Paris. Like in another group, someone was like, "Oh, no one in Paris wears Louis Vuitton." Louis Vuitton is literally the most worn handbag brand when I was in Paris in January. Like the Pont Neuf Louis Vuitton bag, the twist bag in the I think it comes in the epi leather or just one of those standard leathers. Like French people, Parisians were wearing those bags. So this idea that you can't bring your really expensive European bags to the countries where they're from is very ignorant. Let's keep it Gucci, honey, and have respect for people's cultures. This also pertains to language. I've said it before many times. You don't need to speak French to shop in Paris or whatever. Or literally at this point, all of the essays who work at the boutiques in Paris, all of them are bilingual. You do not need to speak French at all. But I think it's really nice if you just go and say bonjour. Just at least say bonjour, say hello. I think that's just so nice. It's so respectful. Also remember, do you speak another language? Do you speak French? It's not easy speaking two languages. My mother tongue is Swahili. Sometimes even when I'm filming my videos, I have Swahili words in my head, and then sometimes I'm like trying to I'm even translating them from Swahili into English. Have respect as well for people when you go shopping, and be the kind of tourist that locals want to see. Be respectful. If you don't speak French, don't expect to be understood like that straight away while you're shopping. It's the same thing for Big H. Although I must say in Big H, all of the essays speak French. They speak other languages as well. They speak Mandarin. They speak, lots of other languages. Mandarin, they speak Russian, they speak Japanese, and Spanish as well. So you don't need to worry about the language issue. But I still think it's really important to go there to be respectful of people's culture as well. Don't just go there and be like, oh, you know, they don't speak English. No one here speaks English. You're in France, honey, okay? No one is speaking English, honey, if they don't want to speak English to you, okay? But they probably do speak English if they want to. So just be nice, and at the very least say hello. Before I go to Paris, I'll film like a video of just like basic phrases that you need, and I'll make like an article that I'll post on my blog, and you can just download that article if you're heading to Paris. At the very least, know how to say hello, which is bonjour. That's it. At the very least, be able to say that. And then once you've said that and you're in the store, start speaking English. They don't have a problem and they won't mind. Now, I want to talk about safety. Okay, because safety comes up a lot whenever, hold on, wait, it's my other phone. Safety comes up a lot whenever I'm always like reading about Paris stories. Again, when I was there, nothing happened to me. I was completely safe. I felt safe. I felt fine. There were nights where Edwin and I were walking the streets of Paris at night on the Champs-Elysees, and it was like 10 o'clock, and we walked. There were several times we walked back to the hotel at night, and it was like 9 o'clock, and it was fine. and nothing happened to us. But I think it's really important to keep your wits about you and also to use common sense. I remember in this one group, there was this woman, she was talking about how her and her husband were mugged I think it was like outside La Madeleine, which is this really famous church. I think it's near the Place Vendôme. It's a very famous church. Gabrielle Coco Chanel had her requiem mass at that church when she passed away, I think. And basically they were mugged outside of La Madeleine, which, you know, is really sad. I mean, people being, you know, mugged outside of the church, that's not cool. But they were like basically like approached by these people, okay? And then these people literally were like talking to them, and then all of a sudden they got mugged, and she had her bag snatched. Now, what I will say is I do think you need to use common sense and keep your wits about you, okay? In your home country, if a stranger comes up to you and starts talking to you in a really busy touristy area or a very upscale area and is like talking to you, would you spend a lot of time? For those of you from New York, when my mom was working for the UN, there were times she would go to New York and we'd go to mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral, the Catholic cathedral in Manhattan. Very busy in a very touristy part of Manhattan, lots of people milling about there. Would you stand outside St. Patrick's Cathedral and start and have a random conversation with a stranger? Okay, would you do that? Yes or no? Those of you from America, those of you from New York, would you do that? Yes or no? I guarantee you, most of you will say, no, I wouldn't start talking to some random person standing outside St. Patrick's Cathedral. For those of you from London, would you stand outside St. Paul's? Would you stand outside Westminster Cathedral in London, chatting to a random person who comes up to you and is like, hello, can I talk to you? And you start talking to that person. Would you do that? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do that, okay? And that's the thing. And like I said, and before you're like, oh, you're blaming the victim. I'm not blaming the victim. I myself have been mugged when I was living in the UK. It was not a good feeling, and I have been there. It is a very, very, very scary feeling, okay? I have sympathy and I do have empathy for that. But use common sense. In your country, you probably wouldn't be standing outside St. Paul's or Westminster Cathedral in London, or, you know, St. Patrick's Cathedral in Manhattan. You probably wouldn't stand outside, you know, St. Patrick's Cathedral talking to random people if you're leaving the cathedral or you're just standing outside there, you know, doing something. You probably wouldn't, you know? So I think it's really important to use that common sense. I think the problem is a lot of people kind of let their guard down when they go traveling. And when you go traveling, you shouldn't let your guard down. When you go traveling, I feel like you should have your guard up even more. So I just want to, I just want to kind of just acknowledge that, because I feel like with a lot of these Paris stories, people say, oh, I've heard that there are a lot of pickpockets in Paris, or I've heard there are a lot of, you know, pickpockets in Barcelona and all of this. But there are many people that go to Paris and Barcelona every month and they don't get pickpocketed, they don't get robbed or anything. And don't, like I said, it can happen, and God forbid it should happen to any of us. But I'm just saying, use common sense. I really don't like the kind of fear mongering that surrounds Paris trips. A lot of you have also asked me about safety. Did I feel safe when I was there? I felt very safe when I was there. I genuinely felt safe. Even Edwin, you know, I was like, you know, did you feel safe? He's like, yeah, I felt safe. He's felt completely safe. Now, I guess he's a man, maybe it's a little bit different. But there were days when I would go shopping, you know, in one part of Paris, and he'd be doing something else in another part of Paris, like doing sightseeing maybe on his own, and I would spend time in. I felt completely fine being alone, milling around. I remember one day walking from Printemps in the Opera area, and walking all the way to the Louvre, and walking all the way to La Samaritaine, and walking all the way to Châtelet, which is this other area which is very close to the Louvre. You can walk it, and I was completely safe. No one tried to mug me, no one tried to pickpocket me. But like I said, I had my wits about me, and I knew what I was doing, honey, and I kept it Gucci. I didn't stop to talk to people randomly. I feel like in that story, when I heard that story, that couple put their guard down, and then they kind of showed themselves to be these very naive tourists, and they got taken advantage of. Don't get me wrong, There are a lot of stories of people getting things nicked in Paris. It definitely happens, there's no question about it. There are definitely these like organized rings that do target tourists, that do target, for example, if you have like an Audemars Piguet watch or you're wearing a Rolex, those things are definitely happening in Paris. There's no question about it. And yeah, no one's gonna feel sorry for you. Like, oh, I had my, you know, my AP or my Rolex or my Richard Mille stolen from my wrist while I was walking down the Champs-Elysees, or while I was walking down the Avenue Montaigne to go spend, you know, 20,000 euros at Chanel. You know, even I think even in France, even in Paris, people are gonna be like, oh, let me get my violin out. You know, I feel so sorry for you. Not. People are not gonna necessarily feel sorry for you, but I just wanted to kind of give a come to Jesus talk about using common sense when you're traveling. Like I said, I'm not blaming the victim. I have been there. It is not a good feeling. But use common sense at all times and don't put your guard down just because you're traveling. Even when I'm here, like today, it was my niece's birthday. We went, me and my niece and my sister-in-law, we took her shopping and we went out for a coffee. When I was driving back home, I called Edwin. I was like, oh, I want to take you out for lunch. I'm taking my husband out for lunch, honey. I was driving alone. There's this like scam that people do here, like at traffic lights, where obviously not all people, but some people, but they come and then they act like they come with someone who maybe has a disability or someone who looks like they're in bad shape. They ask you to put your window down so that you can give them money. And then when you put your window down, they'll spray something in the car and you'll pass out, and then they'll take the car and throw you out of the car and nick your car. Now that is something that has been going on here for a few years, but you just ignore these people, you keep it moving, honey, you keep it Gucci, because you know what they're trying to do. All I'm saying is keep your wits about you when you're traveling, whether you're going to Paris, whether you're going to New York, whether you're going to Dar es Salaam, whether you're going to Johannesburg, you're going to Singapore, honey, wherever you're going, keep your wits about you. In addition to going to Paris, I will also be going to another destination in Europe, so you'll know about that closer to the time. I like to keep other things close to my chest, but I just wanted to just kind of explain those things about safety, because I think sometimes like people kind of not over exaggerate what's happening. These things do happen, don't get me wrong. I've just shared something that also happens in my city, which literally today was when I was driving. I didn't feel scared or worried because I knew what they were trying to do, and I was just driving, honey, ignoring them, keeping it moving, going to get Edwin to take him out for lunch. I was not worried. I wasn't like, oh, let me put the window down, let me hear what they have to say, and then God forbid they spray something in my car. Keep your wits about you when you are shopping in any part of the world. It's not just Europe. It could, even for those of us who might go shopping, for example, in America or Canada, we'll also keep our wits about us. Use common sense when you're traveling, and don't be too trusting and willing to talk to strangers. I feel like it should be very obvious, but a lot of these stories, particularly the ones I hear about Paris, obviously if you're wearing a massive Rolex or Royal Oak Audemars and you're walking on the Champs-Elysees or the Avenue Montaigne or the Rue Saint-Honoré, yes, you make yourself a target, because there are a lot of those watch robberies. But in a lot of these cases, if you just act normal and you're busy walking, doing your thing, in most cases I feel like you'll be absolutely fine. So I just wanted to mention that. Are any of you heading to Paris soon? If you are, let me know. Let's chat about it in the comments. Do you want to go to Paris? Even if you're not going to Paris, let me know what you think about this video. What do you think of this format where it's a little bit more talkative? We talk about big H hot topics, we talk about bait, we talk about emissions and people pretending like they don't really buy things. What is this obsession with, I don't really buy anything, but you have bought a bunch of bait items? Why do people do this? I'd love to know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week in my subsequent videos.